We're live. My friends, my friends, my friends. It is 10 a.m. in Utah on second Saturday. You know what that means. You whores, get your asses out of bed and get to church. It's time for church. Cora Whore needs his money. I only bring that up because this week, the Church of Korihor, as I prophesied, finally got an EIN number from the Internal Revenue Service, and the Church of Korihor is officially an entity according to both the state of Utah and these United States of America. If you were in despair about 2025, fear not, for the Church of Korihor is real and the only true and living church upon the face of the earth. I said it because it's the only one that embodies values like intellectual honesty. I have my comments turned off. Bam. Ha ha ha. We have Jenny Gage. Good morning, Jenny. Happy anniversary. I meant what I said. I didn't know this was your anniversary weekend. I wouldn't have planned all of that. I wouldn't have blamed you if you stayed in bed all morning. I'd have done it. I mean, I wish you'd have said something. Anyways, we got whores in the audience today. We got my boy Nate is in the audience. Nate, did you see the fabric? Did I show you the fabric yet? The polar fleece. This is so exciting, you guys. Okay, I'm going to talk about these things. We're going to get started into the Sunday sermon. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. You don't have to celebrate holidays. That's cool. Good morning, Jules Treasures, our newest Korihor. I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. Oh, I'm so excited. I've never been so stoked. People who want to join in, there is, for the first time, please don't abuse it because we only have so many slots. So if there are any hate watchers who come rolling in, don't use the link. In the description of this video is the link to the StreamYard. You should be able to get into the studio here if you decide that today you want to witness for Korihor, or if you want to take the oath of reason. So we're going to go over some new announcements. So many things to get through, and then I'm going to start the first Sunday sermon I will have preached since the last Sunday sermon I preached, which was only 3 weeks ago. But boy, doesn't it seem like it was like forever? I dyed my stole, and guess what I figured out, you guys, about the stoles? We're not dyeing them. This sucks, man. I mean, it's fun. It was cool watching it change colors and then washing out to the charcoal color and pretty much the color that I wanted. But then it like destroyed the seams on it. And I'm like, yeah, that's why people dye it first. And then they sew it. And I'm like, we'll just buy it in the color. We'll just buy it in the color. If we have to, we'll dye them. We'll get the color in natural fabrics and we'll just dye it later. Anyways, that's why we try, so that we will fail. Did I tell you that we would fail? I did say we will fail. And I love it. In fact, in a moment, we're going to start with our first hymn of this beautiful, unblessed, and unholy Sunday, second Saturday. It is a song that I recently sent to my friend Jenny Gage, who we're going to have important announcements about here in a little bit. And I was listening to this song when I reached out to Jenny, and I said to her on text message, yeah, I got Jenny on the phone. Don't even be jealous. You don't have time. I said to Jenny, I believe in this, and I believe you're a natural leader, and you are a part of it. Exciting news. exciting things coming down the road. So, but I didn't have time. I was going to make it look all fancy like I did with the hymns we did last week. I didn't have time because you guys, I literally, that's right, except for ExmoJoe, except for Joe Rollins, first herald of the Church of Korihor. I get Jenny's phone number. She doesn't give it to just anybody. That's because I'm a spiritual leader. Screw you people who say no. I'm going to deliver a killer sermon or the worst sermon ever here in about 5 minutes. After that, what we're going to do. So I have the AI generated video. Don't read the lyrics. Just don't read them because they're like, it gets it wrong. It gets the lyrics wrong. I give it the lyrics. It creates a song. I love the song. I say, here, create a video for it. And then it gets the lyrics wrong. It's like, they're right there. You created this song. Anyways, we're going to watch the AI generated version. We're not going to watch it closely, but the song is so beautiful. I created it because I'm creating our first YouTube ad for the Church of Korihor. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. And I'm building it around, because I'm selfish, I'm building it around the We're Going Home sermon. I've cut it down to 8 minutes. I have all of my sermonizing cut down. I have the timing for the music. I have the titling. I'm just putting in the AI generated video, B-roll shots. And it is the most beautiful video I have ever made in my life. And I've been making videos for 30 years. 2025 is 30 years. I'm making videos, bar none, the best video I've ever made. And I made it for the Church of Korihor. All I'm going to need is money to actually put it out there where people will find out about the Church of Korihor. This week, I was able to make it down to the bank where I was told that they don't have time to open up a bank account for the Church of Korihor. So we have to do that next week. So I was hoping that by today we could announce the sale of the Korihor coins. I'm going to talk about those here in a minute. But so here's the agenda for today. We're going to open with a hymn, We're Going Home. And then we're going to talk about the big changes in the Church of Korihor and some of the things that are exciting about the Church of Korihor. And then we are going to sermonize. I'm going to preach the sermon, Sweating Like a Whore in Church. And then we are going to invite Jules Treasures, who's here with us in the comments now, and can come into the studio whenever. And we will. I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. I shouldn't be nervous. Jules Treasures contacted me this week and said to me, Joe, I have to be an advocate for other queer people and trans people. And I want to take the oath of reason. It's the first time somebody has asked me to give the oath of reason to them and let them take the oath of reason. And I am so honored that it's Jules. Not because of who she is in her journey and her transition, those things. I just want to say that since I met this person, she has impressed me on a level I can't even describe. And to consider that she will be the first person that I convert to Korohorism fills me with such honor. And so she can still bail. You can still bail, Jules. You can still decide you want to take more time with it. But if you've got the courage to do this with us today, you'll be taking the oath of reason before everybody. And we'll all be very privileged. And if you bail, no hurt feelings. I totally get it. And so I can't tell you how excited I am about this. I believe that Korohorism can change the world. And it may be dumb that I think so. I probably is quite naive. I'm walking in with that, saying I'm being excited about something that I don't know how hard it's going to be yet. But the masochistic part of my mind says, you know what? That excites me even more about it. And I posted, okay, so I am gonna kick to this. I know that I overtalk. You guys know I had this is my autism trait. You know I talk too much, but um I posted on Friday on my Facebook that I'm going to give a sermon on Sunday at the height of a 72-hour spiral because you can't use the other S word. On Thursday, I got into an argument with someone I love, and it was about 10 minutes before I realized, oh no, oh no, the freeway overpass was calling to me. Uh, this is a ritual. I've talked about this with Brett Hartley. I've talked about it with others. Do you notice I mention Brett Hartley's name probably every time I go live? I apologize, especially that this is the thing that I'm gonna mention her about again. And she says, absolutely, you can take the oath next week. Jenny, I would love it. I would love that. Don't worry about hopping on today. You guys, it's Jenny doesn't celebrate dates, but she and her man are on their wedding anniversary. And I was like, why didn't you say something? You don't have to get out of bed, Jenny. Go back to bed, Jenny. You're cool. We're good. We're good. Let's do the announcement now. Let's just do it now. And then we'll do the oath next week. I just wanted to say. So I was listening to this song. We're going home. And something I had been thinking about for a couple of weeks and that I had asked Beth Magnetic about. You guys remember, did you guys see the sermon last week? Beth Magnetic talking about you could buy anything in this world with money. This is something I bet Beth hasn't even told Jenny. Afterwards, I asked Beth to hang back after everybody left church. Church. Do you love it? I do. And I said, hey, could you hang back for a minute? I have a question for you. And I asked her, I said, what do you think about Jenny Gage? And she said, I love her. We're basically sisters. And I asked her, I said, do you agree with me when I say she has a natural leadership? And she said, yes. I said, I prefer to bounce my inside thoughts, my little autistic inside thoughts off of other people whose opinions I respect, and I respect Beth's. In fact, Beth and I might have a big announcement. I realize sometimes when I say things like that, it sounds like we're getting married. She's married. I'm married. Well, no, I don't know if she is married. She has a partner. She has a man. And I have a spouse. And even though I am polyam, I don't steal people's wives. Oh, that's great. I didn't. Hey, I'm a feminist too, Jenny Gage. If you guys are not married in the legal sense, I like that even better. But that's great. No, absolutely. Listen in and don't. I know you people in the future probably aren't seeing this conversation. You're only seeing half of this conversation. We're gonna let Jenny not bother with getting camera ready right now because she is on a special weekend day. And we are cool with that. We don't ask women to give up of time that they don't want to give up or need to give up from within their hearts right now, because that is such a toxic behavior that I have been guilty of. Just saying. I know myself. Okay. And I talked to Beth last week and I said, I've been thinking about something. I'm going to ask you to keep it on the DL because I haven't talked to Jenny yet about it. But I'm thinking about asking Jenny to leave the board of directors of the Church of Korihor and become the second herald and join me in the heraldry. Those of you who don't know, the directors, we love them and they are very important. My boy Nate is a director and he's here and I love that. Um, they are the ones whose names went on to this piece of paper that formed the Church of Korihor. They were friends of mine who stepped forward and said, "Yeah, I'll help you start this. I would love to do it." And Jenny was the first person to say yes and get excited about it. And one day Jenny said to me, "Joe, I kind of thought for a minute that this was a joke, that we were just doing this so that people could leave the church, or that, so we could, do humanitarian work and so forth. But I'm listening to you talk about this and reading these bylaws that we signed." And she said, "Is it possible that one day I could be like an apostle in the Church of Korihor?" And I said, "Are you kidding? Absolutely, it's possible." And she's like, would I give sermons? I said, "You can give one next week." Absolutely, you can preach sermons for the Church of Korihor, and we would be better off for it. And that's when it started ticking in my brain, going, she's not talking just about feminism. She's not just talking about being an ex-Mormon. She's talking about Jenny. She's talking about this woman who's this girl inside of this woman who has such a lived experience, and those of you who know her story, lived and died experience about what it takes to be wise in this world, and she's learned through hard living and through rising to the occasion. And whenever I think about Jenny's journey, I am so impressed with this person. I am so amazed at how generous it is of this person to have gone on this journey with us, and how important she has been to me in starting this most important endeavor I have undertaken in my life, apart from raising my children. And that is why she was the first person I decided to put into the order of the Church of Korihor by invitation, if she wanted it, and she can still bail, where she could become my successor if something were to happen to me as second herald of the Church of Korihor. She becomes the one who takes over if something happens to me. And in the future, we will remunerate probably at some point. And it's very plausible that that by the voice of the directors and the membership of the church, it'll be at least a year from now, because that's how we've written it into the bylaws, unless we change the bylaws. It may be very possible that we decide as a fellowship that it's time for Joe to step down as first herald and put somebody else in. That person could be another herald, because I plan to bring on and ordain at least one more herald, a third herald, by the end of 2025. It's very possible that it will be in 20 that we will have maybe more heralds by the end of 2025. And so I'm just grateful to have Jenny as part of our experience here. And she is in the studio, but she's not camera ready right now. She's still working. So Jenny, you raise your hand if you're ready to come up. Anytime, I'm happy to bring you up. So, but I just wanted to share with you guys that in January, if we can make it happen, because I'm planning to try and get to Arizona in January for business reasons. I did mention that I'm talking to Beth Magnetic, right? Who is in Arizona also. I may be going to Arizona in January, and we also have a community of people who are talking about not necessarily joining the church, but becoming a mission of reason for the Church of Korihor. So we are, we're expanding, we're growing, and we're developing this. And, I'm just grateful. If we have the opportunity, we will do the ordination in January. Otherwise, we are planning to have the first symposium of the Church of Korihor in Arizona in March. Currently, it's slotted for March. We're not finalized on where exactly or who will be speaking at it, but we will be having some guest speakers. So I'm about to start the hymn. But Jenny, are you hoping to come on with me to say something? No, you don't have to. You don't have to. Okay, you can. Oh, you can private chat. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a private chat. We're gonna bring on Jenny Gage. I didn't ask her to. I did ask her to come on to the show before I knew that Jenny is on vacation, and I didn't. And so, but she is generously giving us of her time, and I just wanted. I want to give her the chance to say what's in her heart if she's up to it. So we'll just take a moment to talk to Jenny.
Good
Hi,
morning.
Jenny.
Good morning, everybody. My hair is still wet, and I think I have blush on one cheek.
That's not fair. You look great.
I'm midway through. I just wanted to say, if you're going to talk about me so much, like I have to come on whether my hair is wet or not, Joe. Like I can't just sit here and like, sorry, I'm too busy. Um, you talking about first reaching out to me about the Church of Korihor. I left the Mormon Church 6 years ago, went straight into a Christian church. The next week I was standing in a Christian church, and in a lot of ways, like, that gave me training wheels. I could kind of step out of Mormonism, but I didn't have my Relief Society and my visiting teaching anymore, but I had a Bible study group, and my kids had youth group to replace the scouts and all the different things. And I don't know how I would have stepped out of Mormonism without that training wheels. But then I lost my faith in the Bible and Jesus and everything, and plunged into nihilism and broke up with Jesus 2 years ago next month. And that was a real hard break for me. I know Britt and I have talked about that plunge into nihilism after losing faith, and what a dark place it is, and how, like, there were days, Joe, that I didn't even know how to go on, and I didn't know who to reach out to, because I did all of this before TikTok, before ex-Mormonism, before I even knew that Mormon stories existed. And when you reached out to me about this Church of Korihor, I did think it was a joke at first, just like, yeah, I mean, I'll support Joe because you're amazing. I'll support Joe in this little satire Saturday Night Live church thing. But as you began to bounce ideas off of me, and I saw just how beautiful your concept was, what I saw first and foremost was that this would be a place for people to gather however they want to, whether they're just listening once in a while to sermons, or engaging in our monthly Zooms, or participating in some of like the charity work, different things like that, for people who didn't have anywhere else to gather. I had the gift of having a Christian church that I became part of, so I wasn't so lonely when I left 44 years of Mormonism. And then I had my TikToks with millions of people that are there to support me. But for people who are deconstructing religion, that atheist, agnostic, nihilist, that post-religious sphere can really be a void where we're all kind of floating around without gravity. And as you shared with me your vision for what our little gang of people that we don't even know what we're doing could possibly look like, what I saw was that we could be a gravity point for people who very much need to feel grounded in the loss of their faith. And that was it. I was in.
Wow.
So
I'm
I'm
so
so
glad.
happy to be part of building this little space. I talk about it all the time. I've shared it with, like, I don't know, 100 real life people this week. Like, I'm texting friends about it and talking to people about it and sharing it on all of my socials and talking about it in my lives and stuff. This is a space for people who have lost a faith. All those nuns that are out there that aren't religiously affiliated, that don't know where to go and what to do. There are a lot of church options. They can go back to any old, universal, what is it? Unitarian. I know that
Right. A
there's
universalist and stuff. Yeah.
plenty of Christian churches that teach like a religion-free message on Sundays, but it's still based on Jesus. I love that we're creating a space for people like me.
I love that too. And honestly, it's what was in my heart to do it at first, and then I didn't have the courage to say that. And then I met you and I said, with somebody like Jenny with me on this journey, we can actually do this. We can actually create something amazing. And so I just want to honor your journey, Jenny, and then
Well, you
certainly
too. Same.
let you. Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that. And and again, you can bail. We don't do callings; we do invitations. You can bail anytime, but I do want you to know you are. I see you as being a big part of the future of the Church of Korihor.
Thank you. I think this is wonderful. And anybody listening, whether in the future or live, we are working really hard just to create a space of meaningful conversations, shared ideas, where nobody is elevated above anybody else. It's not like Joe has the best ideas or I have the best ideas or Brett Hartley or anybody. It's not that anybody has better ideas than anybody else. And there's no God guiding any of us. I think that I hope anyone who feels like they just want to engage in meaningful conversations and brainstorming and knowing that there are other people out there who are just trying to figure out this path of life without a deity guiding and directing it all, that we're here for you. We're all gonna kind of do this together. I think that, Joe, if the atheists really create a strong space for mutual connection, I think everybody better look out, because isn't that what happened during the Enlightenment? And we are the band of refuses. How do you say that in Finnish? The Le Band de Refus. We are all of those enlightened ones gathering in the cafes that sparked the first thought revolution with Nietzsche and all of those, and the poets and the artists, when they met in that little cafe, it sparked a revolution that shaped the world that we currently live in. And Joe, this is our little cafe. This is the Band de Refus.
That's right. It's a revolution, man, and we're just the beginning of it. I love that.
Other revolutionaries, welcome. We're so happy to have more people joining us. So, Joe, I'm going to hop off so you can sing the hymn, so we can get to the sermon, and I'm going to be listening in my pocket.
Thank you so much. Hey, and happy non-anniversary regular normal day to you and to Kev. And
it was the day we decided to commit. All right.
I love it.
Bye, Joe. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Jenny. Bye. Now you see why. We're going to sing, or just listen. This is We're Going Home. I've listened to this song probably 100 times this week while making the video that goes along with it, and I'm still not sick of it. It's the best hymn I've ever heard. It's better than Old Korihor, which was the first one I wrote. So then I'm going to do some announcements and we'll sermonize. And now we're going home.
Guide me by morning light, keeping home in my sight. With doubts and dreams take flight. We flash in the dark, so let's flash bright. On a mission to save ourselves, break with dogma with these shelves. My friend, if you choose to be free, I'll light your path if you'll walk with me. We're going home to where we'll find a world where life is worth the climb. One day we will crash and we will die. Oh, my friends, that's not tonight. No more shadows in our mind. Leave the fears and past behind. On this pale blue dot, we will make our stand. Light within, we will be your hands. We're going home to where we'll find by math and science, our path is clear. Strangers once, our re-entry nears. Sighting land, we'll quit this sea. I'm going home, who will come with me?
Come on. I mean, come on. You guys, this is a serious thing. We're about to get really serious. I'm going to sermonize here in a minute. I do want to mention a couple of things. I don't think I said this last week. This is polar fleece. It's different from blizzard fleece, which is the crap you buy at Joann's, which is better quality. This is less durable and it's less soft, but it cuts the wind better, and it is it's thicker, and so it gets warm faster. It's a little bit disposable. My friend Nate is in the comments. He is one of the founding directors of the Church of Korihor, and he turned me on to this warming center crisis that we're having in Utah. If you don't know, I'm just going to speak from the heart and just say some of these are my opinions, okay? The Mormons in Utah, they're turning their back on the unhoused. And it makes me angry, and it makes me compassionate, and it makes me realize how privileged I was to not even have to think about this. But every year in Utah, people pass in the cold. And the Mormon church has buildings that are sitting empty that they're trying to sell because since the big COV, Mormons have stopped going to church. A lot of them. Like and it's true about Christian churches, it's true about religious institutions all across the board. They have empty buildings that these people could stay warm in. They only open these warming centers when it gets to less than 18 degrees Fahrenheit. That's cold enough to freeze the water in your veins. Okay. And they won't open their buildings that are sitting there empty. Why? Because you might have to clean them afterwards. They ask their members to clean them for free. They have $300 billion. They ask their members to clean the damn churches for free. Okay. Meanwhile, one of the main things, I contacted one of these non-denominational groups that's volunteering to help run these warming centers that, frankly, the Mormons are trying to shut down where they exist and won't open their church houses. While other churches, the Community of Christ Church, which, by the way, is failing, that's the other Mormon church nobody knows about, is opening up their doors to let people sleep between the pews. And then Nate was telling me, he's like, they started sending people around to say, hey, you can't open we passed this ordinance or whatever so that you can't open up your church and take people in out of the cold to save their lives. They said they changed it and they said, oh, it's not a warming center. We're having all night movie night at church, and you can't tell us who we can or cannot invite. I love that. But I look at that and I said, the Church of Korihor's got to do something. Now, if I could do anything, I would raise the money and go and buy some of these church houses that the Mormons are selling. If we could figure out a way to do that, because of course they're going to try and stop it. But I guarantee you there's a way. But if not them, there are other churches here in Utah alone that there are tons of them that are up for sale. There's one right down the street from me. They want $6 million for it. I think it's overpriced at that. But there are other churches for $1 million, between $1 million and $1.5 million. We can buy a church building and make a 24-hour library with comfortable reading nooks for people to enjoy a good book on a cold winter day, with maybe a pillow and a blanket and maybe a little door that you can close so that you can have privacy while you read a book all night. That's what I would do if I had the money. But you know what I found out they need? Blankets. I said, wait a minute, if we get a mission that makes blankets, we're going to have to buy sewing machines. We're going to have to make people sign waivers saying, I promise I won't sue the church if I cut myself or injure myself on a sewing machine. And then I asked ChatGPT, is there any way to make blankets that doesn't involve hemming them? And it said, yeah, polar fleece. Cut it off the roll, blanket. This one cost me $20 for 1 yard at Joann's. I can get the same one online without a bulk discount for about $4. And I think we can get it even cheaper. So here's what we're planning to do. My sister has a laser engraver. And we're going to start selling this to make it fun, because we also are about fun. I want to show you some Photoshop. This is the design of a coin I created. It reads, I bought $25 worth of spite against the Mormon church in order to keep people warm in Utah in 2025. And all I got for my donation was this cheap token of my vendetta, and I regret nothing. And then and it has the Korihor sigil. This is the black on white version. This is the dark color against light color. This will be an aluminum coin that people will be able to buy for $25. I know for sure we can pay somebody to cut these blankets off a roll and go and deliver them. At least one blanket, maybe 2 blankets for every one of those coins we sell. Imagine this for a second. If a person can buy a $25 cheap piece of aluminum, they're actually pretty cool when you hold them in your hands. I don't have one here with me, but they're actually pretty cool. And when you have that in your hands, every time you look at this, it's a challenge coin, is what we're going to call it. I call it a Korihor coin. Every time you hold it, you're going to know that put 2 blankets on people who are cold. And then if we raise more money, who's to say what we could do with it or not? Who's to say that we couldn't put blankets on people in every state in the union this spring? I can find the people. I got people all over the country. Every time I tell somebody about this, they go, I'll do it. I'll do it. People's easy. Well, I've got Christians who have volunteered to be luminaries, to be a part of this. We're calling it Rapture 2025 with W at the beginning of Rapture. I've got Christians who want to help this atheist church go out and put blankets on cold people. And in our church, you can do that because we ordain people who are not members of our church. Tell me we don't have values. Tell me again. Okay, I'm going to save the rest of my announcements for after we're done with this, because I need to start sermonizing here. So I can't see your comments. That's partially on purpose because I had to write this down. There's so much of this sermon I wanted to get through. So talk amongst yourselves. Jules is talking about doing Rapture 2025 in Albuquerque. There are people who get cold in Albuquerque. It gets cold. It gets cold in Phoenix, man. Anyway, like a whore in church. Jesus liked women. He would touch them when they were unclean, according to the law of Moses. He defended them when they were accused by his male followers of being prostitutes, lazy, slothful, and hysterical. He also did some toxic things, but nobody's perfect, not even Jesus. In fact, everyone loves the story of the woman taken in adultery, or, the he who is without sin, John 8, 1 through 11. We are going to set aside for a moment the very real possibility that this woman didn't exist, that Jesus didn't exist, and that this story was not around for the first 400 years of Christianity, because someone probably made it up in the 400s. Now, is there a version of the story that probably existed before then? I bet there probably was. Was it an oral tradition that went back to Jesus and his apostles? No. I'm just going to put it out there. No, it is not. We are looking at the Jesus in the Gospel of John, whoever that is, John. We don't even know who that is. People think it's John, the son of Zebedee. Guarantee you that one's not right. Is it John of Patmos? Is it John of... Who knows who John was? We don't know. In the story, Jesus famously tells the woman, "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." Now, this is sold to us like he forgives her for being a dirty cheater. But did he say that? What Jesus actually said in the Greek was more legalistic. He asks basically, where are the prosecutors to your case? And when she says that there are none, he basically says, well, I'm not one either. And then the line, go and sin no more, is more of a blessing than a commandment. It's like, go with God, or go and do thou likewise. The idea that Jesus was somehow opening his spiritual Bluetooth and downloading the guilt in this woman's soul just isn't supported by the text in Greek. Never mind that it doesn't even make sense. Now, so if Jesus tells the woman that he isn't interested in being her legal accuser because that's not his job, and then encourages her to go in peace, but be careful, where does this idea come from that Jesus had to forgive the woman for sinning? Then there's another interesting thing about Jesus' weirdo behavior. He writes on the ground, right? Now, people have come up with all kinds of harebrained ideas about why Jesus stoops down and writes in the dirt. But here's one I like. It may be referencing Jeremiah 17:13, which reads, "Lord, you are the hope of Israel. All who forsake you will be put to shame. Those who turn away from you will be written in the dust because they have forsaken the Lord, the spring of living water." I like that because it very clearly shows that one of the favorite passages about Jesus, invariably the most loved story about Jesus, was actually just a verse from the Old Testament rehashed to suit the agenda of some Christian who lived hundreds of years after the disciples were in the ground, which Jesus supposedly said was not going to happen, but we don't talk about that. In the same time period that this story emerges in biblical text, the 400s, St. Augustine wrote about the story in a couple of letters to a friend about the crisis of divorce. In the Church of Korihor, we actually have rituals developed by our own Jenny Gage to celebrate divorce. But Augustine was not happy about divorce. Augustine was working in Northern Africa at a time when Roman Christianity, what becomes Catholicism, was enjoying protection throughout the empire that other forms of Christianity were not. Now, for converts in North Africa, becoming a Christian could really put a damper on your love life. The unmarried ones were fishing in a small pond of Christians. Married converts were either abandoning their pagan spouses or their pagan spouses were abandoning them. And divorcees who converted were surprised to find that in the eyes of St. Augustine and the church, they were all still married to their ex as long as their ex was alive. And to have sex with anyone else, even if you remarried, was adultery. How is any of this what Jesus taught? Not surprisingly, some of these Christians wanted Augustine to be reasonable, but he would not budge. In his mind, if you were married, it was for life, which makes sense for a guy who has a vow of celibacy. This made sin and repentance into less about letting go of the past and moving on with your life, what Jesus seems to indicate in the text of the story, and made sin into spiritual blackmail. In 1560, the Geneva Bible added explanatory notes that framed the story explicitly around sexual sin, something absent from earlier translations. In 1611, the King James Version uses condemn, But other English translations, like Wycliffe, used doom, a more explicitly legal term, closer to the Greek. Now, another interesting mistranslation introduced into English, into the first real English version that we know, the KJV, was repurposing the name. I don't speak Greek, koine, or any other kind. I don't think that the pronunciation is different in koine. Anyways, by believe the word is pronounced moikia, which means a crime against a male head of a family, but it was replaced in English with adultery in the Bible. In the Victorian era revised version, 1881, add sections, headings that frame this story as an adultery story, rather than what it originally was, which was a story about legal justice and public shaming, that you shouldn't be publicly shaming people for their private behavior. In Greco-Roman society, the primary concern with adultery was property rights and social order. But by the Victorian era, it had become all about sex and individual sin. But at the same time period, women all over the world were starting to win very real fights for their right to inherit and own property, to vote, to get a fair wage. And women like Josephine Butler were even rising up in the purity culture, but to fight against the exploitation of women. The English Revision Committee from 1870 to 1881 included over 50 scholars from different Protestant denominations. Now, this committee's work was controversial even at the time. Some members resigned over disagreements about how much Victorian social values should influence translation choices. Mind you, they're talking about changing the Word of God. They were particularly divided over passages dealing with women's roles and sexual morality. Among the many reasons why they wanted the Bible changed was the publication of Darwin's On the Origin of Species and other scientific developments that were leading people out of the pews. Sound familiar? So they changed their so-called Word of God again. Every once in a while, I hop over back into StreamYard to make sure that we're still live. Okay, cool. They intentionally mistranslated Greek words about moral behavior to make them call out people in their day and to hell, literally to hell, with whatever the church fathers thought, much less Jesus and his disciples. Now, here's some terms. There's the word porneia, which means exploitation and slavery, but was replaced with fornication. They did this to Jesus's teachings on divorce in Matthew 19:9 and Paul's condemning temple prostitution in 1 Corinthians 7:2. Aselgia means the lack of self-control in eating or drinking or other indulgent behaviors, but was replaced with lasciviousness and sensuality in Galatians 5:19. Akatharsia, which meant that a person was unclean ritually, unable to participate in a ritual, was then replaced with sexual impurity in Ephesians 5:3. Malakoi, which means soft, as in a fabric, or soft in character, like in 1 Corinthians 6:9. Already, that's a controversial thing. I mean, what does that even mean, to be soft, morally speaking? But while the King James Version translates this word as effeminate, the RSV changed it to sexual perverts in 1952. 1952. The NIV changed it to male prostitutes in 1978 and kept it when they did the same thing again in 1984. Then in 2011, the NIV changed it to men who have sex with men, and the ESV changed it to men who practice homosexuality. They added section headings that framed narratives in moral rather than legal or social terms, which were their original intentions. Now, they chose English words that emphasized individual sin over systemic injustice. Now, one fascinating detail about this process was the 2/3 rule. Any change to the KJV text that required a 2/3 majority vote. This often meant that more conservative interpretations just won out because there were only so many people. There's a smaller group of people who were the ones to raise the objections to say, that's not what it says in the original text. It didn't matter. It mattered what the preachers wanted it to say. Now, this shaped what we now know as the English Revised Version, which was popular between 1881 and 1885, then the American Standard Version in 1901, and every translation ever since. Now, people say that you should just keep the King James Version because it predates this committee. That's sensible, apart from the fact that the KJV preserved all the problems included by the Church Fathers and English translators in earlier versions from the ones from St. Augustine's time, which was already post, Nicaea, post the Nicene Council, excuse me. While some newer versions of the Bible are trying to correct the way that this story is written, the damage is already done to Christianity as a whole. Christianity has become poisoned by these ideas that even earlier versions of the Bible, like the KJV, are reinterpreted in the exegesis. Or in other words, you have people who read the KJV, not these new versions, but they read them the way that these new versions are written because they're having interfaith conversations and preaching with other people, and nobody knows what the Bible actually means. And the downstream effects are frankly irreversible. Consider this. The widow's mite story is supposed to be about how evil it is for rich people to use their generosity to brag about how rich they are. And how now the Mormon church sets up vending machines so you can buy goats and chickens for someone in a third world country where everybody can see you do it. The prodigal son is supposed to be about how the brother of the prodigal son needed to learn that to have brotherly love was to put your supposedly righteous self aside and be glad that somebody who was lost was found. And right now we have protests in Kaysville with religious people shouting at their elected leaders that they didn't ask for the state to take people off the street into empty buildings that are just sitting there on nights that are cold enough to freeze the water in your blood. What the hell do these Christians think that the Good Samaritan is about? Jonathan Haidt is someone you should know because people who love God tend to love this ethics professor and his books and have no idea what he is on about. He basically has shown that we all point fingers at each other to shout immoral, when in reality, we just have different values. But the values of God believers are built around purity and loyalty and submission to authority. And you can't shake this fact. That influence largely comes from the Bible, not as it was written, as it was rewritten and rewritten and rewritten and rewritten to bastardize the meanings to suit the agenda of so-called Christians. Now in true form, I ran out of time to write anymore, but I want to cap up this rant, okay, by just saying this, okay. The thing that's shocking to me about so-called purity culture, about so-called purity morality, is that they not only can't justify that it's what Jesus wanted, they can't even justify that it's what they want. And when you talk to Christians about it, there is almost a guilt in how they see other Christians treating people who are queer, or people who are gay, or people who have very normal, active, and even healthy sex lives. And and all of this, if you ask them, why is that more immoral than leaving people in the cold? They can't tell you. They don't know. They don't care. And it's shocking to me to think that we can sit here and point fingers at each other. And then they say things like, oh, people leave the church, they have no morals. Well, okay, give us an example. And the first thing they go to is some kind of sexual sin. And they realize that's the big moral crisis that you think is going on, that people look at dirty pictures on the internet. That's the moral crisis. Because I'm looking at this and going, you guys claimed to be following this man from Nazareth who told you to love your neighbor as yourself. And then you go and shout in town hall meetings about how you can't let the state use state resources to take people in out of the cold because it might bring drugs and crime into your neighborhood where your kids are dealing drugs and crime out of your medicine cabinet. If you can't tell, it pisses me off. This is why we need godless people at the forefront of a movement for moral crisis in this country. Not just here in America, we need it all over the world, but I can only go so fast. I am grateful to any person who will be on our side. I don't like Jesus, as many of you know. I'm not a fan, okay? But that doesn't mean he didn't say any good things. One of the best things I know about Jesus' teachings, one of the best things that I think he ever said was, he who is not against us is on our part. The Church of Korihor, as far as I know, is the only church that's talking about ordaining people from other churches. Won't let them join. You join our church, you leave all other churches. But people ask me that, people say, wow, that's no different than what the God churches do. No, I'll tell you why it's different. Is because we do ordain people from other churches. We do ordain people from other faiths. Hey, Dave. And we let people not only let people, we welcome people. We invite people. If you don't believe the way we Korihors believe, put on a stole and help us do the work. You don't have to believe what we believe. You have to believe what we believe only to join the church, and only people who are passionate about Korihorism and what we believe are asked or invited to join the church. And frankly, we are not out to convert the world. I'm out to convert a handful of people. I call it the ship of fools philosophy. Because other churches intend to make all their money, or most of their money, at least the warehouse of their money, the war chest of their money, through tithing, through making people give 10% of all their income, while I want $2 a month from a handful of people. And I tell you, and this is where I'm going to conclude this sermon and go into the announcements of what we're going to do with that. Here's the thing. I need people, as I said before in my first sermon, I'm going to fail you guys. I want people who have the courage to fail with me. And we'll start again. Now, hopefully that won't mean shredding it all down, tearing up the articles of incorporation, and starting a whole new organization. I hope not, because it was actually a fair amount of work to make this thing happen. But if that's what it took, and I'd close it tomorrow and start over, the Second Church of Korihor, and start over. I'd do it tomorrow, because this was not about building the true and living church. This is about changing people's lives. We transform painful lives into lives worth living. By the light of reason, we are all Korihor. I have never believed in anything like I believe in this. If you don't want to believe in it with me, that's fine. But if you want to help us to put blankets on cold people, you can go to korihor.org and learn how to do it very soon, because I'm still working on that page. Amen. Now, I mentioned this real briefly, and then I'm going to cover it, and it's 11 o'clock. Then we are going to invite Jules Treasures, if she is into it still and still wants it, to go ahead and click on the link into the StreamYard and join us here in the studio. And she will take the oath of reason, the first person after me to take the oath of reason and convert to Korohorism. I mentioned that we are going to be asking people to give $2 a month when they are members of the Church of Korohor. Oh, by the way, that link is available to anybody else. Anybody, if you know me, and we've talked about this before, you can hop into the studio if you want to take the oath of reason. I'll give it to anybody. I'm not looking for randos on the internet. But I don't know. If you're a rando on the internet, hop in here. We'll have a conversation. Maybe I'll give you the oath of reason if you want it. And well, I'll have to be impressed, because frankly, we're not taking everybody. But those of you who may be so inspired, you're welcome to join in, raise your hand, and take the oath of reason, or to jump in and witness to Korohorism. I mentioned that we are going to need some money to make the church run. Okay, it costs right now about $200 a month, which I think is a pretty reasonable overhead to manage all of our costs. In the future, it will get to be more, but I intend to make it as small as possible, and to keep the overhead low, because I want most of the donations that this church raises to go to our missions of reason. That is the missions of shelter, the missions of patronage, the missions of care, the missions of enlightenment. I want people to give to people on the ground out there where the work is actually being done, and as little of that money as possible coming to the actual government of the church. Now, at the same time, I need to be able to pay myself to do this work. I need to be able to pay the growing number of heralds that I'm ordaining. And it would be so easy to say, well, we'll convert a whole bunch of people and ask them all to bring 10% of their income. The reason why I hate the tithing idea, is because then it means that it makes less sense for me to go out and get somebody who is, a single parent trying to make things go in their life and wants to be a part of this work. It makes more sense financially when you think about it to bring on one neurosurgeon into your church than to bring in 100 of those people. And so that's how it becomes a rich person's church, full of only rich people doing rich people's thinking. And then you get the Mormon church. That's how it happens. And I look at that and I say, no, give $2 a month if you can, if that's financially viable for you. And then here's what we're going to do. This is my plan for 2025. In January, I am going to publish my first book. Since my first book, I'm not even going to lift it up. My first book, The Korohor Argument. I've been working very passionately on this, doing a lot of research, doing a lot of writing and rewriting. I'm on the second draft of it. I'm planning to have the finished draft and publish it in audiobook format on Audible, and in Kindle format, and in paperback on Amazon, just because that's where everybody is and that's where everybody's buying things. So what I will ask people to do to help me to build up this church is use your Audible credits to get the Audible book for my new book when it comes out, which is called All My Prophets Paint. That book I am donating to the Church of Korohor. And long after I am gone, if this church still exists, which I hope it will, I hope this church outlives me by many, many years. Every copy of that book ever sold will go to supporting the work of the Church of Korohor. I intend by the end of this year to publish at least one more book. And if I can, depending on how well we do at getting these books to publish, I intend to make a movie and we're going to talk about ideas for movies that we're going to do that are going to help us to spread the word of Korohorism. So this is my plan. My plan is that the tithes, as they're calling them, even though they're not 10% of your income, it's $2 a month, will go to helping us advertise and promote assets that are owned by the church that will help other people, that will help us to finance the church operations out of the sales of those materials. Now, one of those things, let me see if I can share this. One of those things is that we have started a store. It's not got a lot of stuff, but it will be launching this week. Share screen. There we go. Okay. This is just one example. We're going to be selling some sweatshirts that people will be able to buy to also help us to finance the work. This one is a fun little sweatshirt, sweating like a whore in church. As you can see, it has the Korohor sigil on the back. That's the kind of thing we love to do. This is Printify. Now everybody knows my big secret. Not that it's a big secret. There's some other ones. I'm just pulling around, just fooling around, spitballing some ideas here. I thought that we could have a T-shirt that says "Science is gay." Let's try it with the Korohor sigil. Now, come on, you ain't never seen no church merch like that. And then another one and then some other ones that'll be a little more plain, like just sweatshirts with the Korohor sigil. Now, of course, I'm doing sweatshirts right now because it's cold. But anyways, it's not even loading that, but you get the idea. So we're going to be launching that this week, and people, it's not live yet. There you go, Printify. Good job. And the profits from those, or proceeds, if nonprofit organization, will go to helping us to finance the advertising budget. I was really hoping to have this video done to show you guys, because but right now I'm the only one who can see what it looks like in the end, because I see all of the shots that have not yet been generated. I've been playing around for about a year and a half with AI generated video, and I've actually gotten to be pretty good at it. And so I've been putting these AI generated videos that are less expensive and less difficult to put together than going out and actually shooting things. My intention, of course, is in the future, as we grow this, we're going to get actual footage and we're going to include actual footage and things of the actual work that we're doing. But of course, right now, people just need to be able to get the vision of it. We're Going Home was a decent sermon. Yeah, I screwed up a couple of times. I just did it now too. But when I cut it down to the 8 minutes that make it glorious, this hour-long sermon I preached, the first sermon of the Church of Korohor, it's just about the most moving thing I think I've ever heard or seen in my life. I did a little preview of it on my interview yesterday with Evan Charlie. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Yeah, I'm not even going to say it. I did a little taste of the video with Evan Charlie because she was having internet connectivity issues. So I'm like, oh, we're live. So, okay, here you go. You guys can watch a little bit of the video I'm working on. We're Going Home is a video that could change the world. I really do feel that way. I feel like it's almost wasted that it's me talking in the video, but I do have a good voice. So thanks, Dad. I'm sure that he'd rather I was using it to spread Mormonism, but actually, I know my dad. He probably wouldn't care. He actually probably doesn't think so. So we're going to bring up Jules Treasures now, and she's going to take the oath of reason. Again, this will be the first time. I'm going to have to pull it up so I make sure I get it right. Pull up the website. This will be the first person that will take the oath of reason since I took it. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring up Jules. Hey!
Hey, Joe, how are you doing?
Good. It's been a long time. I mean,
I know.
probably hasn't been that long time. How long has it been? Like 2 weeks, maybe.
Yeah, like 2-3 weeks, I think.
Yeah. How you been?
I've been great. You know, just kind of been working on my channel. It's funny that you brought up Printify, because I just started my own Printify shirt channel last night.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
great. Hey, I tell you, I
Mhm.
probably have done better for Hellfire Agency off of the merch I've sold from Printify than I have memberships. But which is totally cool, because I'm switching total business models out there. Those of you who are listening to this because you're in Hellfire Agency. Hellfire Agency is undergoing some amazing changes, and I'm very excited about it. So, shall we do this thing? What do you say?
Of course.
So what'll happen, Jules, is I'll have you in a moment stand up, and you'll take the oath of reason. I'll witness it, and then I will welcome you into the fellowship. Then what'll happen
Okay.
is by the end of the day, my plan is to get you a certificate that I'll email you that certifies that you're a member of the Church of Korihor. If you want
Okay.
to, you can let me know by email or any other way, because but people at the website, when you guys go and do this online, there's a form on the page for taking the oath of reason, where there's a space where
Okay.
you can say send this to the following organization. It's a way for somebody to say, yeah, go ahead and send this to those people, so they know that I'm out of their church. I'm in this church now. And we will print out that certificate, and we will take it to any organization you ask us to deliver to them and say, they're ours. You can't have them. So, very good. Should we do this thing?
Let's go for it.
Let's do it. I'll have you go ahead and stand up for me if you are physically able in the space where you are.
Okay, let me adjust my camera here. You probably like the dress.
I love it. Oh man, very witchy. We're into witchy stuff here at the Korihors.
There we go. I'm just trying to adjust my camera. Yeah.
Cool. Very good. And stand comfortably. I'll have you take your left hand, place it over your heart.
Okay.
Take your right hand, raise it high overhead.
Okay.
And you will say the following: from this breath to my last breath.
From this breath to my last breath.
I state your name.
I, Jules Tristana Ariza,
do hereby swear that I embrace the teachings of my exemplar Korihor, abandoning all gods, I seek only the light of reason, and I renounce membership in every other church. Please receive me into fellowship with the Church of Korihor. Amen.
Amen.
Fellowship, we warmly welcome Jules Treasures into the Church of Korihor. Yay.
Thank you.
Painless, right?
Painless. Just get rid of everything there.
I love it.
I wanted to show you, I have a challenge coin here, what one can look like. This is from the Florida DMAT team I used to be on. So these are actually pretty cool to have, to collect.
Yeah.
I know friends that used to collect massive collections, and they do have a pretty good meaning. They were used by the military a lot. I think I sent you explain them to you.
Tell us that story. I love that story. I love this. You guys listen to Jules Treasure. She's going to share something really cool. A cool idea.
So I always carry mine in the wallet because challenge coins were used in the military and by veterans a lot, because if you're, drinking with your buddies or whatever, you can pull out the challenge coin and throw it down on the table. And then everybody can pull out one and throw it on the table. The person that does not have one has to buy shots for everybody. But if you pull it out, throw it on the table, everybody has theirs, then you have to buy shots for everybody. That's the meaning of a challenge coin.
Of a challenge coin. You guys, how cool is that? That's a great idea. We should definitely start something like that. Everybody pull out your challenge coins, and I just think it'll be great. I think it'll be great. Hey, Jules, I'm gonna let you go unless you have something in your heart you definitely want to share with us today. But I do.
No, this was fantastic. To be able to resign from everything else. I think it's a great feeling.
I love it. Jules, thank you very much for being here. And I'll tell you what, you and I next week, we're going to talk about your path, if you still want it, to become a luminary for the Church of Korihor and give us some good representation.
I am really, it's really coming into mind to do it, to be able to, like I said, I do want to hand out blankets to the homeless here. So it's really right there, coming through that I most likely will. So I've really been thinking it through.
Very good.
Thank
you so much.
Yeah. I
love
see
it.
so many homeless on the way to work. And
really?
Yeah, I see many homeless on the way to work. So
I love that. You guys, let's all welcome Jules into our congregation. Thank you, Jules. I'm going to let you go.
No problem.
We'll be in touch. How great is this, you guys? We're changing lives here, and things are going to become so exciting in the future. I foresee a future where, we're able to sustain people, a handful of people who will go around the country and eventually go internationally. And this is big thinking for 2025. So don't expect this to be a thing until probably 2026 or later. We're just going to go around organizing missions of reason and bringing people together and doing fundraising. One of the things I mentioned that we're going to start with an advertising budget. So we're going to start with a Google Ads budget to get We're Going Home in front of more eyeballs and to start advertising and promoting All My Prophets Paint, which again, the proceeds from that don't go to me. They go to the church, which eventually will pay me, but only once we have enough money coming in that's actually paying for all the other operations of the church. And from that, we will be able to sustain this movement without asking anybody to give 10% of their income, without asking anybody to, without going out after any big fish and saying, hey, you have millions of dollars. But what's going to happen then is that part of the operations of the church, once it gets large enough, is we're going to start recruiting some people who work in nonprofits doing fundraising. And I'm going to do this without crying. I'm going to be toxic, man. Toxic, man, no cry. We're going to ask people who work in art dealerships, connecting emerging artists and established artists with people who invest in art. And because there's a whole movement, I know you guys know about this, billions of dollars every year are being spent investing in art because gold and silver are out, basically. And crypto is wildly, unstable. But art is like the most valuable asset people are buying right now. And I'm sitting here going, but they're mainly buying them from established artists and putting down big money on it, while there are starving artists that are frankly better than I am out there creating gorgeous art and trying to hawk it for $20, $30. And I'm like, no, we're going to, and I don't know if you know about this, but the art world, the art dealership world is so corrupt. is so full of scams and galleries and who they have. I was listening to this guy talking about this just the other day. He signed on for an exhibit to exhibit his art with a gallery, and he spent a lot of time packaging it up carefully and shipping it out to them, and then got word back from them that they did the exhibit and nobody bought his paintings, which he was disappointed about. It's like, nobody bought my paintings? Nobody at all? They had all these mucky mucks come and look at all these paintings and nobody bought my paintings? And then they sent the artwork back and it was all damaged. And what he figured out was basically that this gallery was running an insurance scheme and basically had insured it and then intentionally had it damaged and collected on the insurance claims. It's so corrupt, this twisted world we live in. And so I'm looking at this and saying, why can't the Church of Korihor hire people, hire them, pay them well, and go out and hold exhibits where we say, don't buy paintings from all these established artists out there, though they already have artists, they already have dealers who are working for them and working with them, and blessings to them, more power to them. But we'll have these exhibits where people who have the means to throw down serious dough on art while it's valuable, because early art, emerging art for an artist who goes on and becomes established becomes increasingly more valuable. So to these people, it's more valuable to find art by emerging artists, technically, than it is to find art by established artists. But how do you find them? Well, they have these dealers, these art experts. They're basically art brokers who go out and find these artists. Who go out and find investors. And then they say, let's hop on a plane and go fly around the country and just look at art and see what you like. That is definitely not the most efficient way to do this. I'll find some experts, and I'm planning on Church for Atheists to start interviewing some of these people and saying, let's talk about how this could be done more effectively. And why can't we, have a thriving environment for allowing artists to create art and to be able to sustain their work. I'm going to say this and then I'm going to, play a closing hymn. I was going to showcase our new hymn, More Money Than God. I didn't get it finished in time. I'm frustrated with myself about that, but I fail. That's a thing that I do. And, But we'll definitely close up with my second favorite hymn, O Korihor. But I do want to say this. I had a conversation after my interview with Jenny Gage. And I showed her some of the things I was working on, like the Exoration Crucible, the God Crucible. You guys have seen it. I don't need to get it right. I showed her the stole. And she said something to me. She said, I love that this is a church where men are crafting. And I looked at it and I'm like, crafting? It's art. And I was talking and I'm like, which is the way women say art. Oftentimes. And I was talking to my partner who is AFAB, but is they. And he said, yeah, because when you're a woman in the church, you create art, but they call it crafts. And I went, holy shit. Never even occurred to me. This is how toxic and privileged I am. It didn't even occur to me. And I went, crap. How long of a journey do I have to being less toxic? I think it may be a lifelong one, friends. But she's absolutely right, Jenny. And he's absolutely right, my dear partner, Winter. That crafting is art. It's just art that people are expected to do for free, or because they're going to liven up the house for the children. I had a conversation this last week, day before yesterday. Those of you who didn't see me go live on Maven's channel, you guys know Maven? Maven's amazing. And on her channel, When We Choose. And we were talking about the values of Korohorism. And I said the joy of children. I probably should have given a trigger warning. Trigger warning. Forget I just said that thing. Trigger warning. I'm going to say a thing that may trigger you if you are a woman in a conservative world, or who came up in a conservative world. I said the joy of children. And one of the commenters on her comment stream said, the joy of children? What the heck is that supposed to mean? And I think it was somebody who follows my channel too. And Maven brought it up and said, yeah, I kind of want to know about this too. The joy of children. What is that supposed to mean? And we were talking about antinatalism. So I said, well, we only have so many years in life and blah, 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 blah. Basically, they're like, okay, but we women, we don't exist just to make babies. And we can have joy in our lives from things other than making your babies. And it's like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. This is not a pro-life thing. No, the joy of children is the joy experienced by children, not the joy of having children. And I realized, holy crap, there it is. My male privilege sneaking in. And I went right upstairs, spoke to my wife. And I said, I'm going to say 3 words to you. 4 words to you. Tell me, without thinking about it, tell me the first thing you think of. I said, and the words are the joy of children. And she said, patriarchy. I said, really? Just like that? She's like, yeah, it's basically relegating us to being baby makers and baby. I'm like, okay, but how would you say it? How would you say it if the value of Korohorism was about preserving a space in time where children are allowed to be children, where they're allowed to experience joy and create positive memories that they'll be able to treasure throughout their lives, and where they learn the skills for emotional resilience and emotional intelligence? I'm like, because apparently I can't call that the joy of children. And she said, oh, that's the joy of childhood. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, that part of a word changes the whole thing for you as a woman. And she said, yes, totally changes it. That changes the whole thing. Changed it on the website that day. We no longer value the joy of children. We value the joy of childhood. So this is why I say we need women at the forefront of this movement. And I am so fortunate to have had Jenny Gage giving of her time to help us to shape this. I am so fortunate. I am trying so hard not to say the word blessed. I'm so fortunate to have had Beth Magnetic, who is not a member of our church, is not clergy in our church, come and preach us a sermon that I needed to hear last week. And I am just putting out there right now, I would love to hear a sermon from another woman next week or the week after who wants to volunteer and has it in her heart to share something with us. I've had some offers on the table to a couple of people. One of them, I'll just go ahead and say this. No, I'm not going to say it that bluntly. I invited somebody you guys know to give a sermon for the Church of Korahor, and she didn't say no. She said, "Can I put it off till in the time when I'm in a better place?" And I said, "Of course, absolutely." I said, "You don't have to do it at all. And she's like, oh, I'm so glad to hear you say that because I feel so much like the bishop asking me to give a talk in church. And I went, what? I had said, if it feels like that, don't do it. Totally fine. No is the answer. I will take no for an answer. I will take, Joe, you can't expect me to give of my time this generously for an answer. I will take it. I am fortunate anybody gives of their time to help us build this thing. But I only want it to be because it's in your heart to do it and because you're passionate about it. I know I'm rambling at this point, but I just want to mention this. Beth Magnetic asked me what I wanted her to sermonize about last week. I said, I don't want you to sermonize about anything. I want you to say what's in your heart. I want you to preach however you want about what you're passionate about. And the first thing she said, I would preach about money. Awesome. She's like, you don't hear sermons like that. I'm like, maybe you do for motivational speakers, but not at church. This is a church where we talk about it. And she's like, and she said, I don't write scripts like you do and read them. She's like, I'm just going to get up there with my notes and say what I think. And I'm going to say whatever I think. And I said, do it. Don't preach about God's. That's the only thing I ask. Please don't preach about God, which I don't think Beth even believes in God. I didn't check. I wanted to know what was in Beth's heart. I wanted to know what she wanted to share with us, because this is a movement where women aren't just a part of it. Women are leading the way. Trans people are leading the way. Gay people, like my friend Sam Nieves and my friend Rob Lauer, who believes in, who's kind of agnostic-ish, but is a Reformed Mormon, lead the way. Trans women like my friend Evan Charlie. I wasn't going to mention this. I talked yesterday. I had a live conversation with my friend Evan Charlie, who is a trans woman. And we didn't talk about her being trans. We talked about how she wrote a book of scripture called the Book of the Lavins, without believing in God, being agnostic, or she doesn't really take that. She doesn't take the name atheist with relish, and I get that. I didn't do that for a long time either. And I started listening to her, and we started talking about shared myth. What does what the hell is Britt Hartley on about I need to create a shared myth? Why did my friend Derek explain to me about, over Christmas, if you guys didn't catch it, my friend Derek from Myth Vision, which is a huge channel and podcast, gave of his time to celebrate Christmas with me or Mythmas. And we talked about what it means to create a shared myth. And he created one about me right there and then. He's like, here it is. ExmoJoe does this, and something about a cliff and a vine. I don't remember. I wasn't listening. But no, I was. I just forgot. And I'm like, and I said, Evan, you have written a book of scripture. Can a book of scripture be about something that's true? And she said, no, that's interesting. I said, because I got this book on my prophet's paint that I've been working on. And it's about the true story of these painters, but it's also about the art that they created and why they created it, what was going on in their lives when they created it, and what you see when you're looking at it, including the paints. I think that the story of paints is so amazing. I can, I'll send somebody down an autistic rabbit hole here, and with this statement. Your sub's talking about Mythmas now? Good. I celebrate Christmas. I say Merry Christmas, but then for the sake of Corohorism, I say reasons, greetings, and Merry Mythmas. I do think that Jesus was a myth, and I'm happy to be pointed out that I'm wrong. But there's the color Prussian blue. Does it sound like a lovely color? Prussian blue is a beautiful color. It's kind of dark. It's kind of but very rich. And it was a color that my favorite painter. I'm doing it now. I'm doing all my prophets paint right now. Who cares? Let's do it. My favorite painter is a Polish surrealist named Zdzisław Beksiński. And he painted with Prussian blue, but only the darkest themed paintings. He painted dark. People called him the painter of nightmares, which he hated. He would say to people, if your nightmares look like my paintings, get help. He's like, because and he was on a television interview in Warsaw where they're like, but isn't it just like you capturing your dreams? And he's like, no, dear God, no. If my dreams looked like my paintings, I would. He's like, first of all, I don't remember most of my dreams. I think most of us. He said, but if my dreams looked like my paintings, I'd be terrified. I'd be terrified. I was losing my mind. And some of his darker paintings that had themes that were interesting, that harkened back to his childhood, because he lived in Warsaw when it was occupied by Germany in the 40s. Picking up what I'm putting down here, the 30s and 40s. Okay. And there was a concentration camp nearby. Prussian blue is made from a chemical that they put into the showers in those camps. And it's been used for a long time to make this color. Cool. Thank you. It's my all favorite time. Can I put this up on the screen? It's my favorite comment ever. You guys, do you see this? Thank you. Thank you. It makes me so happy. And my favorite painter used it to paint his paintings. Okay, now fuck off. And it was, and and here's the thing, I don't know of any interview where Zdzisław Beksiński talks explicitly about what he saw as a child in German occupied Poland. He very rarely even talked about the hellish existence they experienced when it was under the Warsaw Pact, under the Soviet Union. But he painted it. And when he painted it in Prussian blue. All my prophets paint. Vincent van Gogh, I have shed more tears over Vincent van Gogh in the last, in these 45 years of my life. And what happened between him and Theo and Joanna and what they went through. And then I look at his paintings and I see a prophecy. I see a beautiful thing. Hi, Lisa. I see the most beautiful things that these people, including some amazing women like Georgia O'Keeffe. Do you know Georgia O'Keeffe? Gorgeous paintings. And when people would talk to them about why they painted what they painted, one of the people who said it best was Beksiński. And they asked him what his nightmare paintings meant, which, by the way, in Poland at the time, he was seen in the art community as a hack. And they're like, he doesn't even know what he's painting. And he would lean into it and say, no, I don't. I don't know what I'm painting. Well, but what does it mean? What does the cradle here with the draped figure mean? What does this being that's walking the big, mass black furry animal that's feral and wild and this hellhound beast? What does it mean? What does this mean, Shishla? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I didn't make it for me. I made it for you. You see it, and it moves you. Then that's what art is. That's what these people meant. Van Gogh did the same thing. Said would write the same thing. He's like, this is what makes my art good. This is what doesn't make it good. This is how it compares to other people's work. And then he would say, but I don't know how other people will see it. And that's exciting. They create art. They put themselves in a vulnerable position. And being a painter, I've learned this. You put yourself in a vulnerable position where this is going to have to dry and just stay there. And it will outlive you. And other people will look at it and say, where was he going with this? And why does it move me? And what does it mean? And you are, St. Jerome said, we know what a prophet is, because they tell the future and it comes true. I've never heard of a prophet who actually did that. Not one. Some people say Joseph Smith was that person. I guarantee you he was not. But every painting I have loved over these years, and I love paintings. I love movies so much. I think it's hard for me to say, but I might actually love paintings more. Every one of them is a fulfillment of a prophecy. Somebody put paint onto a surface and said, this is going to move somebody in a way I can't tell the details of, but here's a stroke. Here's a stroke. Here's a color. Here's a part of it. Here's a thickness of a color. Even the thickness. This is something I learned actually using oil paints. How you choose the thickness of the paint is a crucial decision you have to make every time you pick up the brush or the palette knife. All my prophets paint, man. And this is probably either the most beautiful and wonderful sermon I'm writing out in the form of a book, or it will be the weirdest autistic rant I've ever been on, and nobody will like it. And I'm going to put it out there at the end of January, the last draft. I want to thank you guys for coming out to church today. I want to thank Jules for taking the oath of reason and joining our movement. This week, we are going to start opening up the store with some products that people can purchase that will help us to build the work. Please don't do it if you don't have the funds. I know the holidays just came up. I'm planning to come up with some calendars with some holidays. I've been talking to people about possibility of creating Church of Korihor holidays that include things like Carl Sagan's birthday and the winter solstice as Sir Isaac Newton's birthday. We got to get some cool, celebrate some amazing women. We got to celebrate some amazing moments in queer history, and we're going to create a calendar that people can buy for 2025 that commemorates all of these things as holidays of the Church of Korihor. And I will be making announcements in the coming weeks about the ordination of our dear friend Jenny Gage to the heralds, and also thank you, Jules. Also we will be making the Korihor coins available so that people can donate to help us to put blankets on cold people in Utah. My goal is that we're going to make and distribute at least 300 blankets in these colder months. Then we're going to switch over when we complete that goal, which I think we will. And we're going to start putting a fund together that we will use to create 24-hour libraries out of churches. And we'll start going, none of this money, I can't stress this, none of this money goes to me at all, not a penny. And none of it goes into the coffers of the church. All of it is going to go towards fixing a problem that our Christian neighbors are too greedy and heartless to solve. God can't make them do it. The godless will do it. Thanks for coming out to church, you guys.